Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jess from BehatiLife. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today we're going to be going over the most frequently asked questions that I get about tarot cards for tarot readers. The first question is, Jess, what deck do you recommend for first-time beginners? What deck do you think I should have in my collection no matter what? So that's number one question. And the second question that I always get is, what resources do you recommend for me to learn the tarot? So in 2017, right now, which is when I'm filming this video, I'm 30 years old. I've spent a lot of time, many years, over 15 years, actually studying, working with the tarot deck. When I say working and studying the tarot deck, I don't mean shuffling once a week. I don't mean shuffling every once a month or when I had interest. I mean aggressively going in and shuffling the cards every single day, multiple times a day, in order to build a relationship and to understand it deeper. And I would do this for many years. I feel like I do have a good grasp of experience to share with you guys, and I can, after all this time, give my recommendations as far as what I think was best for most people. The deck that I recommend above all, first and foremost, is just so basic, and I'm sorry to disappoint anyone because there are a million, trillion, cajillion cards out there. It's basic, and it's the Rider-Waite deck, the Rider-Waite tarot deck. This is the first tarot deck that was designed, well, maybe not the first one that was ever designed in history, but it's the most popular and widely used. I recommend finding it and sticking with this deck until you are so comfortable, because from my own personal experience, I started off with the Goddess Tarot, and I liked it at the time because it was one of the decks that I gravitated towards. But as far as learning and education, this one was so easy. If you do research, and if you're looking at books, tarot books, that you'll find at like Barnes & Noble or on the internet, people will refer back to the Rider-Waite deck in order to elaborate what they're talking about and to be clear about what it is that they're talking about, because every tarot deck that is designed, they're not all created the same. So some tarot decks are like the word that they use in order to refer to the princess of, or the page of swords, or the page of wands could sometimes be referred to as the princess of swords or wands. Some of the major arcana cards are the number, and the way that they fall within the tarot deck can be switched and flipped. So I think it was the Goddess Tarot deck that I had, and the Strength card, the major arcana Strength and Chariot, were flipped within that deck, and it would confuse me when I first started as to which one are they talking about, and I would have to work with that obstacle while I'm learning the deck, and it was just too much for me to deal with. So when you have the Rider-Waite, if you go on tarot forums, there's a great tarot forum that I can recommend that I learned a lot from in my beginning stages, and it was called Eclectic Tarot, I believe. I'll leave the links down below, but they always refer back to, no matter what deck you have, they refer back to the Rider-Waite because it's a general way of measuring and a general way of learning and communicating about what the tarot is. The other thing is that when you get started with tarot and when you're starting to learn the tarot, it's so easy to get really excited and get all of these different types of tarot decks, because there's a million out there and each of them are so awesome in their own unique ways, and you're going to find your favorites, and you're going to find the ones that you hate or the ones that you think that you're going to love and then you never use. So it's so easy to kind of dive in and get all of these decks, but what ends up happening is that, again, each deck is totally different. The symbolism in each card, like what can represent the Hermit in one deck, the person who designed another tarot deck, the artist of that deck, their interpretation of the Hermit totally varies. And if I have to say one thing that I totally regret doing, that I wish I could go back and do all over in the very beginning of my studies, is taking my time and not rushing through the learning process, but really working and growing and taking my time throughout it, is to go through each card and in a composition book, like a simple basic composition book, and pulling a card, each one, and writing down, the symbolism of it, what I see in the card, what jumps out at me, what I notice, what I hate, what I love, what it how it makes me feel, what it makes me think of, all of those things, writing down those initial reactions to the tarot deck before I go in and get a tarot book and refer to that. So, and then after you've, become more accustomed to how it is that you feel, compare what it is that you feel and your own conclusions for that card. Compare that to what, the card's meaning was designed to represent, and how they compare, how they differ, and then write down the notes that you feel and that you get with that. So let's say the Page of Wands here, let's say this card represents, well, it does. It represents new energy, new life, new beginnings. There's so many different connotations that come with this card depending on, where it falls, how it falls, and also the questions that's being asked. But this card, just reading the tarot by itself is so complicated, and there's so many intricacies to them, and things change and vary so much. And my goal is to later on talk about those changes and talk about what makes things different, and talk about, the best way to read the cards and, go from beginner to advanced reading for all of my followers here on YouTube. But imagine learning the meaning of this card, but then having like 15 different tarot decks, and each one, the card represents something different. So instead of you pulling the Ace of Wands and realizing that, oh, this represents new life, new energy, because when I look at this, I remember what it means. I remember how it made me feel. You have to then memorize and implant in your head the image and the symbolism and the meaning of all these different tarot cards. No, just stick with one deck. And I really highly, again, recommend the Rider-Waite Always and Forever. Even if I make my own tarot deck, when I make my own tarot deck, hopefully in 2018 or 2019, I'm going to be taking my own interpretations and my own experiences and merging all of that into that card, each specific card, after my years of working with them. And my interpretation and my relationship with that will be different and will be represented differently than the simplicity and the clear, precise meaning of the original Rider-Waite. So I hope that this makes sense. What I'm trying to say is that the best thing to do is to stick with the deck. Stick with an original deck that is universally referred to. It's almost like, let's say the whole world speaks English, and this is a bad example, a bad metaphor, but if there was this whole universal language that the whole world could refer to and that you could speak fluently, and everyone speaks fluently, you wouldn't want to learn these side languages in order to communicate with only a select few. You want to learn the language that is fluent to everyone. Now, saying English out loud is actually a little offensive. I'm not saying that everyone should speak English, but it was just the first idea, the first example that popped up in my head. But really what I'm saying is that the Rider-Waite is the language that tarot readers across the board fluently learn, especially advanced tarot readers. And then from there, you break it into learning your own stuff if you want to go that way. But again, this is just only what I recommend. The thing that I can say to you is that if you decide that you're going to stick with one tarot deck, or if there's one that you gravitate towards, build that relationship with that tarot deck, and by all means learn the language of that tarot deck. But also know that when you're in our community, when you're in YouTube, when you're with Instagram, if someone refers to the Strength card and the symbolism, and you'll see in 2018 I'm going to be doing the symbolism behind each card in order to dive deeper into the meaning and the messages of it, the spiritual significance, the astrological significance, along with the meaning of the card. You're going to want to know the Rider-Waite. So this is just the universal language of tarot readers. This is what we all speak fluently, so this is what I recommend. Now, as far as resources and ways to learn, like I said before in the beginning of this video, if I could go back and do it all over again, what I wish I would have done was to write down my own reactions to the tarot deck instead of constantly referring back to this stupid little booklet that they give you with each deck, unless it's like an oracle deck. Oracle decks and tarot decks are totally different decks. If you need me to talk about that in a video, I will. Of course I will. Leave me hearts down below, or be like, Jess, talk about the differences between tarot and oracle, and I'll do it. when it comes to learning the deck, really first and foremost, the strongest thing, and if you're working with a tarot, you should be working with your intuition and your own gut instincts, and making lifestyle changes in order to strengthen your own intuition, not only for giving an accurate reading for yourself or for others, but just in your life, just knowing when something is right for you, when something is wrong for you, developing that intuitive knowingness. So that is so important, because the tarot will it has a way of provoking the intuition and nudging the intuition and nudging intuitive messages. And that's how the tarot works for me. Not only do I remember, like, oh, the world card represents completion. Now, these are general meanings, just really quick meanings, but the symbolism of the world card goes so much deeper than just completion and moving forward and finalizing and graduation. It goes way deeper than that. But more than that, what it does is it provokes the intuition. So sometimes I look at the world card and I don't see the world card, even though the world card is here in the deck as I'm working for my client or looking at the spread for my client, but it triggers an intuitive image within my head and in my third eye, and I relay that message over. So to develop that strong relationship, what you want to do is to connect with it intuitively first and foremost, before you go seeking outside confirmation for things that you should be trying to figure out at first on your own. So that's something that I recommend. I think the best thing to do for that entire process is to get something really simple, a notebook, a composition book. Do you guys realize, side note, have you realized how expensive composition books got? Like, well, I remember growing up, they were like 97 cents. I'm going to sound so old right now. I'm only 30, but I remember a time when composition books were like 97 cents and like 50 cents on sale at Walgreens with a clip coupon. Now they're like $3. And I actually saw this book in Urban Outfitters that was called a decomposition book, which I still don't understand what the hell that is, but it was like $10. And I was like, are you serious? But anyways, side note, I recommend getting a notebook or a steno pad or a composition book or whatever the case may be, that you want to write down your initial reactions to your card and what it triggers in you, what it reminds you of, how it makes you feel, what jumps out at you. In the world card, do you see the eagle head in it? Do you see the lion? Is there a lion? Yes, there is. Do you see a bull? Do you see the man in the corner? What is it that that jumps out at you outside of the fact that there's an angel? Who is that angel? When you look at this person, is it Archangel Gabriel? Is it Archangel Michael? Is it your grandfather who passed last year? Like, who is it? What does it trigger within you? The second thing that I highly recommend is to get a book on tarot messages and meanings. There are so many books out there, but and I am a little hesitant to recommend them because I'm a little hesitant to recommend them, but there's also great websites out there that will, one of them is, oh, what is the name of it? Darn. Okay, I'll link another website down below, but also know that I'll be talking about tarot descriptions and tarot meanings on the YouTube channel, and I will be hosting tarot classes and mentorship, totally advanced from beginner to advanced levels, on my website very, very soon. So put a pin in that thought. Put it on your bulletin board that Jess has something really special designed for us in the future, where we'll have one-on-one conversations, because one thing that I wish I would have done, that I wish I would have had in the past, was someone to talk to me and guide me and mentor me, and someone that I could ask questions without me having to dig. Because how I learned was from my own, pulling cards, and it took years and years and years of pulling a card for myself daily and seeing what happened during that day, and then realizing that there were certain trends of things that would happen when a card would pull up, and not only for myself but for my clients, and I would deepen my own relationship with that tarot card and that tarot card's meaning. And then also I spent many hours of my life diving through forums, tarot forums, in order to see what people who I admired at the time, that I thought were like totally advanced, and they were, their interpretations. And now we're, shoulder to shoulder, side by side, learning from each other and inspiring each other and encouraging each other from years of just, making myself present and, looking at what other people have pulled for themselves and what happened. And I think that that's another best way to learn the tarot is by doing a daily card pull for yourself and writing that down and watching what happens and what unfolds. Me personally, I've always had journals since I was 9 years old. Probably before that. As long as I was able to write my thoughts and write my feelings down, I've had a journal, and I would write every single day of my entire life. And at some point when I picked up the tarot, one of the things that I would talk about is what card I pulled for myself that day, and then eventually writing it down turned into tweeting about it and sharing that message. People loved it. They wanted more. They were like, Jess, this really provoked me. This really, resonated with me. Keep pulling this. And then I, decided to expand myself and pull for Instagram, etc., etc. So you learn so much by pulling for yourself and watching the trends and developing a relationship. And that's not something that you just pick up and learn over time. It's something that you learn immediately. It's something that develops over time, as do all things. And, that's another thing that I want to say too, is just be easier on yourself when you're learning. Don't force yourself. Don't push yourself. Anybody who masters anything has to commit to it and put the time into it. If the tarot is not for you to spend hours and your life learning and studying, then that's okay. You don't have to have that type of background or experience or to enter into a space where you're going to be professional like that. But yeah, take your time with it and learn and grow as you're designed to and as you're meant to. So yeah, that's pretty much the recommendations that I have to say about tarot for beginners and advanced readers, beginner to advanced. I know that there are a few questions as far as how the best way to break in a deck. I can absolutely recommend that to you because I have so many tarot decks. I feel like someone's going to ask me in this, what is my favorite tarot deck to work with? Interestingly enough, the Rider-Waite, the larger Rider-Waite, but I have a mini deck of the Rider-Waite cards, and I have 2 separate decks of the mini ones smushed together in order to double the meaning and the messages as I'm pulling for myself and as I'm pulling for my clients. Also, it cuts down, the not ability, but the potential for just cards to kind of like fall out, at random, and it just makes it so much more powerful and significant when a message is layered within the same spot within a spread, or there's trends within the tarot deck or within the spread that you can see that just go to show, okay, look, we're working with something here, we're working with something powerful. So if you'd like me to talk about that, let me know. I fully intend to. I was going to anyways, but, let me know what questions you have about the tarot. Let me know what is your favorite tarot deck that you like to work with. And as a beginner or as a intermediate to advanced or maybe beginner tarot reader, what would you do differently if you could go back at the very beginning of your tarot journey? Leave me your answer to that in the comments, and I will be scrolling through and reading them all and responding to them all. I do see all of my comments. Sometimes I can't answer all of them, but I do see them all. So thumbs up to this video if you like it. Those thumbs up, they really do make a difference. Make sure that you're subscribed if you love tarot, astrology, or intuitive messages, or if you just think I'm a freak and you want to watch me talk about these things. It's totally up to you. But those subscriptions and those thumbs up, subscribing, it really does make a difference. So I'm just sending you guys all of my love. We'll talk soon. Bye.